Kia ora, talofa lava. Welcome to this morning's webinar on evaluation. My name's Suaree Borrell, and I'm having a first time tutu with delivering in this way. So I apologise for my glitches already, but I hope you get something out of today's session. I'm from Tauranga and Samoa, the youngest of 8, and I've been delivering evaluation for about 15 years, and it's something that you just grow into, and I was lucky enough to pick it up and learn from a whole range of people. So today's webinar is going to be about covering what I know, and hopefully I'll be able to contribute to the way you understand and practice evaluation. Yeah, that's me. So I've got an overview here of what we're going to go through, and I've used the topical Prezi template of a rugby match. So yeah, it's kind of topical and timely that we use the analogy of evaluation being about a game of two halves. So by the time we get to the end, you should understand why I see evaluation like that. So we're going to go with, first of all, understanding what evaluation is and why it's useful. So I think it's easier to grasp a concept if you actually see how it's useful to you. If you don't, then you're less likely to try it. So yeah, in the first bit of this webinar, we're going to cover those two areas. Then we're going to move on to using them as planning and evaluation tools and digging down to understanding activities and outcomes. So we've got the title of the webinar as a game of two halves, and evaluation for me is about those two halves, activities and outcomes. So they're the two key components that keep programs online, and they make sure that things are being delivered as they should and achieving the results that they're meant to. So yeah, in the last section we'll cover a bit about measuring what matters, understanding what you can measure, and the importance of making an impact through your evaluation. So in that section we drill down to actually understanding why evaluation happens along certain principles, and why you should never inherit an evaluation form and think that it'll work for your program as well. So just like no rugby game is ever the same, no evaluation is ever the same, and the more it can be built around the actual certainty or the actual delivery of a program, the better it's going to be. I've got some video content that I'll share with you too, because I think that helps sum up a few things easily too. So yeah, I hope all the videos work, and I hope that you get something out of the session. So understanding evaluation, well, if you Google the term, there's actually quite a wide range of definitions, and they're all kind of similar, but use different wordings to describe the same thing actually. So I've always been of the opinion that it doesn't matter what you call it, it doesn't matter how you do it, it's more important to understand why you do evaluation. But in terms of a definition, it'll generally be around about something like evaluation is a systematic determination of a subject's worth, merit and significance using criteria governed by a set of standards. So I think the importance part in this definition is around that it's a systematic determination of merit, worth and significance. So it's not a random one where someone arrives in, has a look at your program, checks your documentation, does a couple of observations, and then decides whether what you do is worthy or significant. It has to be a rigorous process, an open process around deciding, is this program valuable? Is it going to make a significant difference to the people who are enrolled in the program, etc. So the part about using the criteria governed by a set of standards is goes back to the original thing that I was saying. You can't just roll into something and decide what it's worth just by looking at it. The more you can make your criteria known, the fairer it is for other people who are trying to assess how you came up with the standards that you came up. So here I've got the image of this person. So I think one of the easiest ways you can understand evaluation is in today's education system. So, you know, you have achieved with merit, achieved with, I don't know the others, I'm too old to understand them off by heart, but in NCEA you've got a system that has a clear set of standards, and those things they override, or they sit over the curriculum, so the teacher will deliver a curriculum that aligns with a set of standards. And so when you actually submit and do the test and do the work that's at school, you're then assessed and you get evaluated, and then they decide where you sit on those standards. So when you want to understand what evaluation is, just think about local concepts, think about things you know, and think about the schooling system that we have, and some of your whānau may be in. So when you go to understanding why evaluation is useful, so it's useful on a whole range of reasons. Personally, the one that I find most important is humans inherently want to know whether they're good at something. Actually, most people strive to be good at stuff, so nobody enjoys being crap at stuff. It's people like to know how well they're doing, and I think it's rewarding for a person who spent time, energy, and effort trying to organise a program for you, whether it's on track or whether it's valuable. So in the first respect, evaluation is valuable for accountability, both to yourself and to the people who participate in the program, and ultimately your funder. So that kind of takes us to the next point around value and worth. When I was starting out in evaluation, I just immediately picked up that I thought that evaluation was about the estimated value, and I think that's because you can see e-value in the word evaluation, but that's just the way that I saw it, and that's how it kind of stuck with me. So evaluation is around estimating a value or worth of a program, and not all programs are equal, and not all programs are worth funding, and evaluation is one of those methods that you can use to demonstrate and describe your worth, the worth of the program, more importantly to the participants and our whānau as a whole. So I think evaluation can also be used internally for effectiveness. So if you're trying to grow, 3 types of beans, and you've attended a workshop to grow 3 types of beans, and you've tried to grow 3 types of beans, if you're no longer if you aren't successful at growing those beans, the program has to assess and look at its effectiveness in meeting its outcome. So you kind of have to have a look at whether the program is operating as it was intended. Now, the program should have been intended, as I said, to help whānau grow beans, but if whānau aren't picking that up and that isn't actually happening for them, then you have to raise questions of effectiveness around the program. Last of all, I think evaluation is useful for contractual obligations. So I think we need to be realistic around what's happening in the public sector, and understanding that we have an accountability to the funding that we receive to meet the contractual obligations. So sometimes kaimahi will have never seen a contract, or they wouldn't have gotten the service specifications from the contract, but I encourage you to ask for them and to have a look at them so you can understand what it is that you're meant to do. And then with evaluation, you can't actually determine whether something was worthy, significant and effective if you don't actually know the what. So the ability for you to assess how well you've done against the contractual obligations rests on you having actually seen the piece of paper that stipulates that. So I think it's definitely a fundamental for anyone working in the public sector to understand that they deliver contracts, and they deliver them through various entities, your hauoras, your runangas, your whoever. But there is a contract, and you want to be able to say through an evaluation that you delivered successfully on those things. So logic models is one of the key, it's kind of like a buzz term. It's been around for a while. It was there when I started out in evaluation, but they're a framework for understanding how to plan and both conduct an evaluation. So when you think about what they're useful for, they're useful for helping you test the theory of change in a program, helping you visualize your program so you can see it as I see it actually as a whakapapa, a view of the whakapapa of a program, and it also helps with sending out your model to your stakeholders, your participants, as a kind of like program summary on what the program's trying to do and what it's meant to achieve as a result of it. So I found some I found some videos, but I think the best way to understand how you do use them is to just Google them and have a look and socialize yourself to the models. There's heaps of models. The most important thing is for you to find one that fits the principles that I share in this webinar today. So not all of them are great, and some of them are actually more confusing than helpful. So the couple that are in this model, on this webinar, are ones that I'm really happy with and support. So you can have a look at those, but you can also just Google it and have a look. I've got a bit of a clip here to just give you a break from my voice and to give you a visual demonstration of what we're talking about when we do outcomes or theory of change models. So I'll just click here and you watch the video.
So what exactly is the theory of change or impact chain? Well, the theory of change forms the backbone of any social impact measurement system and is massively useful. It's basically a visualization of how the day-to-day activities of an organization relate to their overall mission or long-term goals in terms of outcomes for the areas they work in, and is key in deciding on what exactly should be measured in an organization. Well, that's the theory of it, but how do you actually use it? Let's use our favorite rooftop garden project to get started. If you remember, the Rooftop Garden Project works with people with learning disabilities, providing a space where they learn to garden in groups, giving them a chance to be outside, learn new skills and to socialise. So how should Teresa, the CEO, go about putting her theory of change down? Well, in practice, it's best to do this activity in a group workshop because you need multiple perspectives to get a complete picture. Get some staff, some trustees, some primary and even some secondary beneficiaries involved if possible. For Teresa, that means getting group facilitators, gardeners, clients, carers, and parents to come to her workshop. The first thing to do is to get down what the Rooftop Garden Project does on a daily, weekly, and monthly basis that contributes directly to their mission. For the Rooftop Garden Project, these activities are group gardening and training with clients, and social events with clients. The next part is to brainstorm on what exactly these activities bring about to the beneficiaries. Teresa has seen that many clients have lost weight after coming on the program because of the physical work, and so mentioned improved health as an outcome and weight loss as a medium-term output. A parent mentions that her son's sleep patterns are much better. He doesn't get woken up as much. A facilitator mentions that their clients have improved their fitness levels. So why did these come about? Because of the physical activity which is due to the Rooftop Garden Project running group gardening and training. Another theory of change is that the program allows better relationships with friends and family. Why? Because the client is less likely to throw tantrums and perform other types of antisocial behaviour. Why is that? Because their social skills have improved due to the social nature of group gardening and social events. Also, the clients are more tired after days gardening and are less bored. So there you have two examples of theories of change or impact chains. These both relate to the mission statement because they are providing a more full life for the persons with disabilities, which is part of the mission statement.
So what we've gone over there is a animated visualization of what a theory of change looks like. So I said logic models are called theories of change, they're called impact models, they're called heaps of different things, but it's not important. What's more important is that you know how and how to do them and why you would use them. So you've got a brief kind of a brief example or some exposure to the concept of what happens when you're planning a program and looking at the idea of that whakapapa being there to present what it is that your program does. I think it's important to see that in order to get that information, she had to go further than just the facilitator, and that takes us back to the idea that I was sharing in the beginning around there's two elements, there's like two eyes to an evaluation. One is focused on the activity, on what the organisation does, in which this case would be the facilitator, because the facilitator is brought in by the organisation, the facilitator is hired or has a contract with the organisation, so they're the person who are going to be responsible for the activity eye, and then the other one is around the outcomes eye, and that belongs to your service user, that belongs to the participants in whānau who come and take up your program. So yeah, I just like to animate things and show you how it looks. I've got a couple of examples so you can see them again and just get used to understanding this framework, because it's important in public sector, it's important in public health work, and it actually relates to a whole range of things, but it's just a good lens for you to see things. So it's part of the wider outcomes tree that you'll see operating in a whole range of sectors. And in terms of where this model came from, it came from the Harvard Business School, and it actually relates to your what they call the return on investments, but I'll explain a bit more about that in the next slide. So this is a basic program logic model that has inputs, outputs, and outcomes, much like the one shown to you in the animation. Down here we have the inputs logically suggest that those are the things that go into a program, and the outputs are things like the workshops that you deliver, the number of people that you, the number of workshops that you deliver. Outputs are really different to outcomes because they are about a number. They're about, in the rooftop garden, we delivered 12-week sessions. We delivered 2 sessions for 12 weeks. The number side of those things is an output. The outcomes is the difference that the program made to the people of the program, and that's what we got from the mum. That's what we got from the other person who noted their son slept better. So yeah, this is one that you'll find when you Google, and I think it's a good model to just understand how those things go together. It's important to have a look down the bottom where we've got our assumptions and external factors, because regardless of how well organised a program is, there are assumptions made in the delivery and the design of a program, and you can use your logic model to test those, and I think it's really important to do so. Your external factors, a whole lot of things affect the way participants increase their knowledge, skills and awareness. They could have had an awesome workshop, they could have learned heaps and then gone home and had a really bad afternoon. You just have to be able to account for factors that you can't control when you're trying to pass and connect your participants to outcomes. So yeah, this model is good for showing you this. So this is the one that best shows that idea of the whakapapa that we were talking about. And again, the two halves concept is present here when we look at the top row here is around outcomes chain. So outcomes are not one-offs, they're part of a chain. So in order for them to have improved health, they first needed to attend the workshop, attend the garden rooftop project that was delivered by the organisation, increase their knowledge, skills and awareness on how to plant and how to grow a good garden, and that led to them demonstrating and practicing their stuff so that they could have a good garden, which led to them having an improved sense of, I don't know, probably even joy through having a garden. But the purpose of this slide is to show you how each of these steps are connected. In my mind, I see them as po. So this is the mahi po, where you actually describe, document, and project the activities that you intend to do. And these po are the outcomes po. And if these connections don't happen, then you're going to weaken the structure of the po. So you kind of have to obey the tikanga of each of these po. So this po is about knowledge, skills and awareness. And this one's about behaviour change, and then this one's about the ultimate population change. And you can't have behaviour change as the first po, and you can't have knowledge, skills and awareness as the last po, vice versa. So if you obey the tapu of each of these po, you'll be able to understand logic models. You'll be able to understand logic models that you see that are incorrect as well, because in order to be a logic model, they have to conform to this particular pattern. Doesn't mean they're bad, it just means that they don't fit with the principles of what a logic model is. So again, I've just got another slide to help you unpack the outcomes change, because that's the most important part. You need to make sure that these connections are happening when you deliver your program, so you can then turn around and map and assess it. You can't, as I said, you can't assess how well you've done on an evaluation if you haven't tested your theory, tested the assumptions, that this learning, that this awareness will contribute to this behaviour, that this behaviour will contribute to an impact at the population level, an impact at the social hapu iwi whānau level. You can't measure that until you've actually put down specifically what it is that you expect to see. So I've also said in terms of its use, it's useful for that visualization. It's also useful when you adopt the outcomes chain, when you're actually creating it, to visualize what it is that you would want to see. So you can start from the long-term outcome. That's where I like to start. I always like to sit down and figure out what's the tino whāinga that I want from this program. And then from there I work backwards and I say I would like to achieve this, this and this, and I make sure that the connections between each of the po and what is done is present, so I can work that out. I'll explain a little bit more about this in other slides. So this is another example that we've got in-house from our own training. So this slide will show you how a logic model can be read from left to right if it is logical, and this is what we call the if that or then that, sorry, the then that test. So we can read the statement from left to right, and we can say how it fits into the stuff that we're doing with community. So we train community providers to promote nutrition and physical activity. Oh, sorry, I completely marked it. So that the arrows represent so that. If you do the so that test, you'll be able to read your logic model from left to right. So we train community providers to promote nutrition and physical activity, so that community providers have an increased knowledge and awareness of nutrition and physical activity, so that community providers can practice promoting nutrition and physical activity, so that community providers can promote nutrition and physical activity in their community. So you can see in this model how we've started with what's the big picture that we're going for here, what's the long-term thing that we want to see happen as a result of us delivering these activities. And then you have to do what I call the midi, which is that you have to massage the middle so that the connections are simple, natural and logical, not great big leaps of imagination that say, oh, I'm going to do this program so that we can all go to the Olympics in Rio in the next round. You know, it's kind of about taking a control the controllables approach to what you want your program to achieve. And as you saw in the video, it's best to have as many people in on that, feeding into that picture, so it's not just like a one-man band gig. So we've gone to the area of activities and outcomes, and we're getting to understand their value and their importance to logic models. So I've talked a little bit about the doing and getting language. So when you think of activities and outcomes, you need to remember this idea of doing and getting language. So the doing language relates to your activity, and on the logic model, which is the left-hand side of the model, and that when you're looking at anything in the activity column for a logic model, your focus is on quality. And when you look at quality, the key things you need to focus on is the content design and the delivery. of that activity. This is kind of like if you're delivering a workshop on waka ama, then you need your content to be credible, you need it to be accurate and accessible. So you need to be able to think, oh, these people may all have different learning styles. Some people may not get observing. Some people may learn better if they read the instructions, and then you have to consider those factors when you're developing your activity, so people can receive a quality product, basically. And when you think about quality, I think the easiest way to understand quality is to think about shopping. So if you were to rate shopping places, let's say we've got the warehouse, farmers, and the $2 shop, people are going to believe that the $2 shop is the cheapest. Then they'll probably put in, what did we have? Oh, the warehouse. Well, let's go with the warehouse, Briscoe's, and the $2 shop. So when you rate those things, you're going to rate them based on the content of what they have, the design and the delivery of the store. So we know in the $2 shop, it's kind of grab it, bring it to the counter, pay the money. In the warehouse, it's kind of grab it, bring it to the counter, but they've really, as of late, been working on the way that they design and deliver the products that they sell. And then at the top, you've kind of got Briscoe's, who does, Briscoe's and Farmers. So when you go in there, they're playing Michael Bolton. They'll soon play Mariah Carey, All I Want for Christmas Is You, because that's going to help the way that you experience their shop. So that's a part of the design and delivery component, and that is part of what those shops do to get you to buy the products. Yeah, it's a good example, and I'd like you to remember it. So, because in fact, the same stuff that's sold in the warehouse comes in the same container that goes to Briscoe's and the like. So they're just designed and delivered differently, even made in the same factories. So when you're doing outcomes, there's a contractual link here too. So again, you want to have a look at your contract. You want to ask the manager. You want to check your service specifications so you can understand what has this contract been set, what is this contract set out to do, and from that you'll get some language that will help you describe what will be done. So again, we're consistently focusing on doing and getting, and when you're working on your activities, you're working on the do language, the do side of things. So I've just got a bit more on the other side, which is your outcomes. So when you're looking at outcomes, you're focusing on success language. So your focus is on the success for your service user and the difference that they have made as a result of participating in your program. So that's why when you're looking at these things for when you're measuring the success of a program, you're looking at the difference that it made to your service user. You're not asking whether they enjoyed the content, the design, and the delivery, because they didn't actually have any input to the content, design, and delivery of it. Again, taking back the idea of the game of two halves, the activities stuff it's internally focused. It's about what the organisation does. The outcomes part of the game is around how did our service user find our kaupapa? Did we change their level of knowledge, skills, and awareness around this? If so, by how much? Another analogy that I use in the sector is understanding the apple principle. So if you've got something in your activity statement, that needs to be pushed through all of your chain of outcomes. So it's kind of like you can't talk about waka ama in the first activity and then in the end be talking about te reo me ona tikanga. And this is because what is present at the front of your logic model has to be present at the end. And you do that by balancing and starting from the end first. So looking at what your tino whāinga is, what the biggest outcome, objective what is it that you want to achieve with your community, with your service user as a result of the program. You can't mix up the apple, banana, pear stuff. It doesn't work. All it does is actually alienate the person who's reading your logic model because in one part you're talking about waka ama and the next thing you're talking about taking the pie. at the marae and doing the real stuff. So yeah, just make sure that what is in the beginning is also easily, naturally, logically present through your outcomes change. Finally, we want to talk about the difference it makes for participants. I think I've kind of talked about this enough, because programs are actually based and linked to the needs. So the funder, who's the ministry, who holds the collective tax purse, they're tasked with meeting particular needs, and needs are identified in health, and then there's a whole layer of service delivery that comes out to try and impact on those needs and make a difference. So if you run programs that don't make a difference, then you're not really providing solutions to the needs that are in our communities. I've also got a proviso on that if you do good program planning and evaluation, then it's really just about adopting the controllables approach. So you don't have to be responsible for everything, and no one's asking people to change the universe through their programs, but through evaluation you are asking them to look critically at what are you doing and what is the service user getting as a result of your kaupapa. So I've got this other video that I got from YouTube, which I received in a funny, it was a funny, humorous take on it, and I've included it in here because as soon as I saw it, I thought, oh, this is actually a good example of outcome. So I'll let you watch the video clip, and then I'll unpack the outcomes analogy that's present in the video. Sorry, I don't know the French translation at all, but but it was funny, and I thought I'd include it. And it was funny because I saw it from an evaluation lens, which is what the gazelle. So the gazelle needed a program. The gazelle needed to be delivering a how to train humans to save me program. And one of the activities that the gazelle would have in that program would be to deliver a running workshop to humans, so they could save me, so that they could catch me. The outcome of this program is being that the human can now race alongside the gazelle and save it from the is that a cheetah? Yeah, we'll go with cheetah. And you've got an example of if a program does its stuff well, you're then able to meet your outcome. And you also have a need because the gazelle requires the program, because without it, he'll get eaten. So if you can imagine in your mind, the gazelle needs a program, he finds a funder to deliver the program, and one of the key activities in that program is to train humans to outrun the cheetah and save me. So he has to do that, and he has to make sure that he's got the right content, design and delivery for the human to understand how to run faster, how to be more efficient. So from that, the human gains knowledge, skills and awareness of how to run, how to outrun a cheetah and keep up with the gazelle. From that, he's able to practice and demonstrate his ability to outrun the cheetah, and from that he can save a cheetah from being eaten. So it's a perfect example of what it is when you design a successful program that's outcomes based and aligned with the need. Ka pai? So this is another video clip too that I found when I was probably 10 years ago, and I still think it's relevant today. So that video clip was a little bit, it was funny. Like I said, I found it 10 years ago when I was just starting out in evaluation, and I thought it was hilarious. I thought at the time it showed that sometimes programs aren't thought through very well, and that they're just delivered on a, oh, you know, we'll just create this big dinosaur, this big ass dinosaur, but we'll only give it little arms. And then in this cartoon, he says, I don't think the plan was thought out too well. I think it just cracked me up 10 years ago, and it's still relevant today for you to understand. When you're looking at a program, you need to think through and examine your theory of change around what am I doing and what does the service user get as a result of me delivering this program. So yeah, those things are there for you as an example. So the last part is around measuring what matters. So when it comes to measuring what matters, it's important that there's a shared understanding, which is kind of how we started off in the beginning. So if you don't have a shared understanding of what you are going to measure, then it's going to seem a little bit out of place, off track with other people, because it's going to be like you drew it up all yourself. So you kind of have to embed a process where you can have other people look at the stuff you're trying to measure, look at the stuff you want to evaluate. Toi Tangata is always there to help you with that, and there'll be some tools and templates there if you need them. So be specific around the behavior change and the measures that you're trying to capture with your program, because inheriting an evaluation form from another program won't work for you, because that program actually probably didn't work for the first program and they didn't know how to develop one. But if you spend the time to ask yourself, what is the things that matter here, you're going to get a better result. The last one is around, I've already kind of said it, having multiple perspectives will help you get a better understanding of how to lay the foundations. So we've got continuing with the idea of quality aligning with your activities and vice versa. All I've got here are some examples of what you do when you're trying to assess how good your shiz is. So if you're trying to assess how well you delivered the cooking lessons for whānau, you're then going to drill into that layer of content, design and delivery. So you can see easily how these relate to content, design and delivery. So the content has to be interesting and engaging. It also has to reach a whole range of learners. It can't just be delivered with one particular audience in mind. Otherwise, you limit your ability to judge how the quality of the work that you're doing. And we also move here where we do some, we actually identify where we're going to get the data from to prove that we've seen it. So a given there is your questionnaire or your survey that you hand out at the end of your session, and then also the interviews. You can do interviews, you can do SurveyMonkey. The most important part is that you understand that once you have got your activity and your outcome, once you've got your two halves of your game sorted, you then commit to a process of drilling down into what do the performance indicators look like for each activity, and remembering that activities are defined through content, design and delivery will help you do that. Last of all, we've got an example of drilling into the indicators for an outcome. So when you're doing an outcome, you're looking at the question is, what does a successful outcome look like? So when you're asking yourself, you're asking that question specifically of the outcome. So you're saying to yourself, what would it look like if I was, or the program was, successful at increasing awareness of the nutrient value of foods? And we thought, well, if you were successful at that, you'd have people who'd be able to identify the main food groups, people who would be able to state which foods are the best sources of key vitamins and minerals, and participants who are able to design a balanced, nutritious meal using fresh ingredients. So again, I'm committing you to the next level in the two halves and forcing you to have a look at what does success look like from the service user's perspective. So you'll notice that each of them contain, they start with the word ability, and that's important because most programs are delivered to change knowledge, skills and awareness. Therefore, ability to do something is the main reason why programs exist. Again, we've got the last bit around your sources of data. So you've got a pre-post test. That's one of the easiest ones. So you assess them before they come in, and then after they've wrapped up the program. Then we also thought we could do a family assessment. We could test what the family knowledge is. And then you, in this case, you could also just observe and watch it. So yeah, those things are part of the process of drilling down into the layers that are there. So this is my last slide, and we're just talking about what the take-home messages are for those people who are interested in conducting an evaluation. So the take-home messages are, there are two halves in an evaluation, and I've talked at length and in detail around what that is. The two halves for the evaluation, as we know, are the activities and the outcomes of the program. So you can focus in on those two halves, and if you align yourself with the principles of each half, you'll be some way on developing a great evaluation for you. So again, we also finished talking around understanding that when you're talking about activities, you're talking about the quality of something, and when you're talking about outcomes, you're talking about the success of something. So understanding those things will help you deliver a program. And the success ones are easier to pull up because you can think outside of your own mind around what do I want to see. The quality ones require you to have a wider network of people to peer review, assess, check your content design and delivery, just so that you know that you're heading towards delivering a really good product, delivering a really good service and program for your communities. The doing and getting thing is one of the easiest ways to understand evaluation like a pro. So you just understand the difference in an evaluation is whether you're evaluating the doing or the getting, and that yeah, those principles around doing and getting are also included in the presentation for you to revisit. Doing again is around what is the program doing, what is it set up to do, and what are the participants going to get as a result of delivering this kaupapa. And I finish with something that I always say with my evaluator friends and talking about our work that we love and have a great passion for, and that is when you understand what you're doing does, you'll feel more confident both in the way that you deliver the program and the way that you describe it in the evaluation. So when you understand what you're doing does and what it creates, the opportunities that it brings to communities, then you're well on your way to understanding good evaluation principles. So I've got a keep calm and good luck picture to end on, and yeah, Toi Tangata is here to help with anything to do with evaluation, so just contact us at info@toitangata.co.nz. Cool, thank you.